Good morning, America. I'm your host, Larry Appleton, for the Larry Appleton Talk Show, and today we have a very special weather report from my good friend Joe Weather. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing swell. Thanks, Larry. Howdy, folks. I'm your host, Joe Weather, and I have some exciting news. The Mediterranean island of Altus has just reached a new record height, only being this large about 93 years ago in 1927. Man, just look at the size of those swells! For those of you who are unaware, waves are caused by what are known as generating forces. These can range from anything, including a common breeze to even a volcano's eruption. Even earthquakes are considered generating forces, though you aren't going to see them make a common swell. The structure of wave is also quite interesting, and there are many types of waves you would have never thought of. Among them are the smallest, known as capillary waves. They're also known as ripples. You'll find them in lakes and small ponds, and they're caused often by wind blowing the water around. A light breeze will cause these little fellows. Swells are the more common ones we normally perceive as waves. You'll see these when you go out to the beach and you see rolling waves washing over the shores. It's the large, bellowing walls of water that will crash onto the common shore, and but you may have never realized, but swells are always evenly spaced. Fun fact, wave height is affected heavily from wind, its speed and duration, and what is known as fetch. Fetch is the area of a surface of water wherein wind blows, for all intents and purposes, in the same direction. It should also be mentioned that there are two types of restoring factors, surface tension and gravity. They also have two different types of energy, kinetic and potential respectively, as do most common things. Now onto the basic structure of a wave. First, you've got your wavelength, which is just the distance between each wave. Right here is the crest, or the maximum height, whereas the trough is the opposite, standing as the lowest point of a wave. Last but not least, the amplitude is the distance between these 2 points. It actually follows a simple ratio that you could understand to predict when a wave will crash. In all, it's a 3-4 ratio, so if a swell is 9 feet tall, once it reaches a depth of 12 feet, it will begin to break. Waves can also be refracted or bent as they move from deep water to shallow water. And this is a PSA for you beach boys and gals. Keep an eye out for rip currents. They're areas of rapid seaward flowing water that will suck you out to sea if you aren't careful. If you get caught in a rip current, remember, swim to the sides or simply wait. Never swim straight to shore, you will drown. Back to waves. There are 3 kinds of waves depending on depth and location. You got your deep water waves, where they travel in water deeper than 1/2 its wavelength. The speed of these waves depend on the length of the wave. They are usually caused by wind and or gravity. Next, you got your shallow water waves. The speed of these is dependent on the depth of the water. The drag of the wave across the bottom is what causes waves to break and forms tsunamis and even tides. Lastly, you got standing waves. These waves do not progress because they often form in enclosed bodies of water such as bays or estuaries. In other news, Kavala Beach's tidal range has been quite erratic recently. For those of you who don't know, a tidal range is the difference in water level between successive high and low tides. High tide, as you would guess, is when the tide is at its highest, and low tide is the opposite of that. Altus, like many other coasts, has a semi-diurnal cycle, wherein there are 2 high tides and 2 low tides in the span of 24 hours. Diurnal tides are the same concept, but with only 1 movement a day. Fun fact, tides actually take 24 hours and 50 minutes to pass completely. There are actually many types of tides. Tides are also affected by the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon, as well as their rotations. Contrary to what you may have assumed, the gravitational effect the sun has on Earth and its oceans is only around half as strong as the moon's. There are also 2 kinds of special tides that can occur: spring tides and neap tides. Spring tides occur when the sun and moon are in line with each other, which happens only on full moons and new moons. This happens because the collective gravitational pull of the sun and the moon combined, making bigger waves. Neap tides occur when the sun, moon, and earth form a right angle. This causes the effects to partially cancel each other out, which will cause very, very small waves. All in all, Larry, we're seeing a lot of changes and fascinating phenomena on the beach today. Back to you at the studio.